I'm Corky Beaumont, and this is exactly how miracles happen. For as long as human beings have walked the earth, we've wondered about forces greater than ourselves. From the dawn of civilization, we've passed down stories of gods, miracle workers, and saints who could control the weather, heal the sick, or even raise the dead. Traditionally, many have chalked these tales up to folklore, legend, or maybe even allegory. But what if they're more than just stories? What if the ancient texts and oral traditions are actually testing our imaginations to see if we can accept a bigger, more mind-bending possibility that these miracles are entirely real, rooted in human potential, and part of a universal truth that spans generations? Consider ancient Sumerian clay tablets that describe beings called the Anunnaki, credited with extraordinary powers that shaped early city-states, hinting at the universal lure of higher entities. Anthropologists like E.B. Tyler and James Fraser analyzed mythologies from every continent, noting how almost all cultures have accounts of divine intervention in day-to-day survival. Excavations in places like Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey reveal early structures possibly devoted to ritual worship, suggesting a deep-seated belief in powers beyond human control. Early Mesopotamian records mention figures like Gilgamesh, described as part god and part man, echoing the same superhuman theme found in later Greek heroes like Hercules. In rural communities worldwide, stories of local healers, rainmakers, and wise seers persist, providing modern examples of a centuries-long continuum of belief in everyday miracles. The tradition of worshiping personified deities in large temples, such as the Temple of Karnak in Egypt or the Pantheon in Rome, points to how seriously ancient civilizations took the possibility of divine human interaction. This perspective begins by affirming that gods exist, divine powers are real, and humans are capable of performing feats once dismissed as fantasy. Rather than trying to explain away miracles as illusions or misinterpretations, this view celebrates them as factual events connected to a deeper understanding of how our bodies and minds shape reality. Historically, many religions have insisted that through faith, discipline, and devotion, ordinary mortals can tap into something truly divine. For instance, Saint Gregory of Nyssa, in the 4th century, wrote treatises suggesting that human participation in the divine is not only possible, but the ultimate goal, aligning with the idea that we can become godlike. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, accomplished yogis are often reported to perform siddhis, supernatural feats, illustrating how multiple major faiths accept the reality of higher powers in humans. The Catholic Church maintains the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, which rigorously investigates miracles such as healings before canonizing saints, treating these events as verifiable. Modern researchers like Dr. Dean Radin at the Institute of Noetic Sciences study phenomena such as focused intention and have conducted experiments suggesting that mind and matter may be interlinked. Archaeologists have uncovered historical records in Mesoamerica, Mayan stele and Aztec codices describing ritual leaders who influenced weather, bridging cosmic and earthly realms in everyday life. Today, neuroscientists explore how meditation, prayer, and other spiritual practices can rewire the brain, leading to measurable changes that could be stepping stones toward miraculous capacities. Now, we're combining age-old spiritual wisdom with modern biological concepts to explain precisely how that might work, physically, mentally, and even scientifically. Way back in prehistory, our ancestors fought for survival against other human-like species, such as the Neanderthals and Denisovans. Scientists typically say better communication or tool-making gave Homo sapiens the edge. But there's a more daring idea. Perhaps a rare genetic mutation in early Homo sapiens led to specialized microstructures in the brain, tiny tubes called microtubules, that could hold onto delicate reality-shaping states longer than usual. Genetic studies of ancient DNA in sites like the Denisova Cave reveal that some Homo sapiens interbred with Denisovans, highlighting the fluid genetic landscape where unique traits could emerge. Paleoanthropologist Chris Stringer has emphasized the importance of cognitive leaps in early modern humans, though the exact mechanisms remain debated by mainstream science. Fossil evidence shows early Homo sapiens spread rapidly across Africa and into Eurasia, implying some distinct advantage, traditionally explained by culture, but possibly boosted by hidden neural traits. Comparative studies note that Neanderthals had advanced tools and possibly symbolic culture, so a purely technological edge might not fully explain Homo sapiens' success. Certain indigenous groups today, such as the Khoisan in southern Africa, carry genetic lineages considered among the oldest in humanity, raising questions about ancestral traits that might inform modern miracles. Historical legends from various regions describe great ancestors who brought divine knowledge or power, possibly reflecting those early quantum-tuned individuals. Over time, these quantum-tuned people, if we can call them that, might have had small but noticeable advantages. Maybe they spotted game to hunt with uncanny accuracy, or somehow avoided natural disasters while other groups perished. Such gifts, though subtle at first, could tip the scales towards survival, ultimately helping them outcompete other hominid species. As societies formed, some of these gifted individuals honed their emerging abilities to manipulate probabilities on a more dramatic level, calling down rain, parting seas, or healing mortal wounds. Their communities would understandably revere them as divine champions. In many mythic traditions, Judeo-Christian, Greek, Hindu, and so on, we hear about figures who could command the elements or reshape fate itself. Far from being mere superstition, these stories could be the collective memory of real events triggered by neural mutations that modern science is only beginning to understand. The biblical account of Moses parting the Red Sea is one of the most famous tales involving dramatic natural manipulation, often interpreted as a literal historical event by many believers. In ancient Greece, oracles at Delphi were said to receive Apollo's power, delivering prophecies that shaped politics and warfare, possibly an early echo of probability manipulation. Legends of King Solomon highlight his reputed control over spirits and nature, reflecting a narrative where wisdom and divine insight blend into tangible miracles. The Rig Veda in Hindu tradition references sages who could invoke rains or stop them, aligning with a broader theme of humans directing cosmic forces. Historical war accounts, like Tamerlane's alleged ability to alter weather in battle, add possible real-world examples of such feats, though often shrouded in legend. Modern parapsychologists, akin to J.B. Rhine, have attempted to apply statistical methods to see if individuals can influence random number generators, hinting at the underlying principle of probability shifts. Deep inside each of your brain cells are structures called microtubules. They stabilize the cell and help transport tiny molecules around. But in some people, these microtubules possess protein folds that shield them from disruptive noise, allowing them to maintain what scientists call coherence for a longer time. When coherence is stable, conscious intention can nudge microscopic probabilities. Multiply that effect across billions of neurons, and you have a recipe for shaping real-world events in ways that defy normal explanation. Dr. Stuart Hameroff, an anesthesiologist, and Sir Roger Penrose, a mathematician, proposed the orchestrated objective reduction theory, often called ORC-OR, suggesting consciousness arises from quantum events in microtubules. Some neuroscientists argue the brain's noise should collapse quantum states too quickly, but emerging research in quantum biology challenges the assumption that coherence can't be sustained. Certain birds, like European robins, use quantum coherence in their eyes to navigate Earth's magnetic fields, hinting that biological systems can indeed harness quantum effects. Lab studies at the University of California, Santa Barbara have shown microtubules can resonate at specific frequencies, possibly relevant to sustaining coherence during meditation or focus. Brain imaging of advanced meditators like Tibetan monks sometimes shows extraordinary patterns of neural synchronicity, which could correlate with microtubule coherence. Tissue samples from individuals with unusual psychic claims are rarely studied, but if tested, might reveal structural differences in neuronal microtubules. Even if you're born with a predisposition for these special microtubules, it often remains dormant unless triggered by certain life-changing experiences. Near-death episodes, extreme meditation, profound trauma, all can switch on the genes that supercharge your brain's ability to interact with reality at a deeper level. The field of epigenetics, pioneered by scientists like Dr. Bruce Lipton, explores how environmental factors can alter gene expression, without changing the underlying DNA sequence. Case studies in the Journal of Near-Death Studies describe profound personality shifts and heightened perceptions in survivors who came back with newfound abilities. Historically, saints like Saint John of the Cross, who endured severe hardship and emerged with intense mystical insights, might have experienced just such a switch. Historians often comment on how ascetics in medieval Europe, like Catherine of Siena, exhibited strange phenomena, fasting for weeks, enduring pain, possibly activating latent epigenetic traits. Similar transformations are noted in Eastern traditions. For instance, the Kundalini awakening in yoga culture is described as a powerful energetic shift that bestows extraordinary perception. Some trauma therapists see parallels between deep emotional breakthroughs in therapy and spiritual epiphanies, raising questions about how stress can unlock hidden neural capacities. The documented life story of Black Elk, a Lakota holy man, includes a near-death experience as a child, after which he gained visionary insight and healing prowess. There's a catch, though. Maintaining a miracle-capable brain requires proper diet and lifestyle. People have long reported the wonders of mineral-rich waters at holy sites like Lourdes in France, Bath in England, or the Ganges in India. Trace elements like certain forms of magnesium and lithium can help stabilize the microtubule environment. Fasting and meditation reduce mental noise, giving these delicate processes space to flourish. A study from the University of Wisconsin-Madison on long-term meditators showed changes in metabolic rates during disciplined practice, which could reduce neural static. Spiritual traditions around the globe, Buddhist monasteries, Christian hermitages, Sufi dervish communities often revolve around disciplined routines of prayer, specific diets, and structured rituals. These aren't just pious practices. They could be the biochemical and neurological foundation that helps lock in extraordinary abilities. The famed spa town of Bath in the UK was believed to be sacred to the Celts and Romans alike, who utilized its mineral waters for healing, pointing toward a centuries-long belief in special waters. Lithium, found in trace amounts in certain groundwater, has been studied for its mood-stabilizing effects, potentially lowering mental noise conducive to coherence. Intermittent fasting is widely practiced in religions like Islam during Ramadan and Orthodox Christianity during Lent, aligning with the idea that controlled abstinence might improve spiritual sensitivity. Monastic diets in Christian and Buddhist traditions often avoid stimulants or processed food, which can cause spikes in blood sugar or agitation, factors that may disrupt quantum coherence. Sufi orders, like the Mevlevi whirling dervishes, incorporate spinning rituals that potentially recalibrate physiological states, similarly creating conditions for heightened mental focus. At the heart of it all lies the concept that our consciousness, especially a specially tuned consciousness, can observe at a level that makes wave-like probability collapse into definite outcomes. In everyday life, our scattered thoughts and minds lack the focus or coherence to cause large effects. But imagine a mind that's honed to a laser point, like a cosmic camera focusing on one probability until it becomes real. Early quantum pioneers like Max Planck and Erwin Schrödinger speculated about the observer's role in shaping reality, though their ideas were often seen as too philosophical at the time. That could explain ancient tales of prophets calling down thunder or saints altering the course of storms. Their unwavering focus essentially locked in the outcome they desired, and reality followed suit. Modern focus-based practices like the Silva method emphasize visualization and mental imagery to influence real-world outcomes, reflecting a more accessible form of consciousness collapse. Accounts from the Old Testament of Elijah invoking fire from heaven or Jesus calming storms represent hallmark examples where unwavering faith directs nature itself. Contemporary mind-over-matter experiments, such as those performed by the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research PEAR lab, found small but statistically significant shifts in random event generators. Athletes often speak of flow states, where intense mental focus seems to alter the probability of success, akin to micro-scale probability manipulation in high-stakes sports. Societies like the Navajo attribute weather control to medicine men who perform specific rituals to guide rain or ward off droughts, a practice mirrored in numerous tribal cultures worldwide. Of course, most miracles happen in group settings. Whether it's a stadium revival, an ancient temple ceremony, or a pilgrimage site, you'll find large numbers of people united in prayer or chant. This unity makes sense. Collective belief can heighten the overall energy and reduce contradictory signals. Sociologists have noted that powerful group rituals, as studied by Emil Durkheim, generate collective effervescence, a palpable energy that may harmonize participants' emotional states. The group's intense focus serves as a boost, amplifying what the miracle worker initiates. Consider mass gatherings like the grand festivals of ancient Egypt or modern evangelical healing events in places like Lagos, Nigeria, where thousands claim recoveries from serious illnesses. Collective intention can be the missing ingredient that elevates modest probability shifts into full-blown miracles. The awe-inspiring ceremonies for pharaohs at Karnak Temple aim to unify thousands in worship, likely magnifying the priest's influence on desired outcomes such as crop success. Modern megachurch services, like those with Pastor Enoch Adeboye in Nigeria, often draw millions, producing countless testimonies of healing and life changes, potentially illustrating amplification in real time. The Global Consciousness Project, running from Princeton, has tracked worldwide random number generator data during major events, hinting at possible global coherence spikes in moments of collective focus. Even non-religious gatherings like rock concerts can produce an electrifying sense of unity, though typically without the directed intention that religious ceremonies often employ for miracles. Pilgrimages to Mecca in Islam or the Kumbh Mela in Hinduism mobilize millions with shared devotion. Historical accounts speak of miraculous healings, transformations, and dramatic conversions. Yet skepticism can disrupt the effect. When determined doubters stand by, their mental and emotional noise may be enough to keep a miracle from taking shape. The observer effect in physics involves how certain measurements can collapse a quantum system. Similarly, a hostile or doubtful crowd may actively hinder coherence. Throughout history, the most jaw-dropping events often happen among believers, like the Marian apparitions at Fatima in 1917, witnessed by thousands who shared a united sense of awe. In Lourdes, many of the miraculous cures happened during group prayers when everyone was in a receptive, faithful state, aligning with minimal disruptive interference. In more clinical environments or under the cold glare of a TV camera, the effect can simply fizzle. Skeptics often reference stage magicians' illusions, but the difference here is the crucial ingredient of genuine, unwavering belief, which illusions typically lack. In short, the mental environment matters. If people's thoughts are scattered, mocking, or dismissive, the delicate phenomenon can collapse under scrutiny. Parapsychologists like Rupert Sheldrake have proposed morphic fields, where group beliefs create a collective backdrop that intensifies or hinders phenomena. Some spiritual healers refuse to perform if skeptics are present, citing the notion that polarized or cynical observers introduce chaotic energy detrimental to the healing process. In popular culture, fairy lore historically maintained that fairies vanish when people disbelieve or ridicule them, an allegory for the broader idea of faith-dependent manifestations. Look at today's blockbuster movies or comic books. Marvel's Avengers, DC's Justice League, the X-Men. These aren't just random fantasies. On some level, we resonate with the idea that a heightened human can wield extraordinary abilities. The superhero origin story, like the mutant gene in X-Men or the meta-human transformations in The Flash, echoes the idea that special genetic factors or freak accidents can unlock hidden powers. The popularity of Stan Lee's X-Men derives partly from the theme of genetic mutation, paralleling the concept of specialized microtubules allowing for advanced abilities. Audiences root for these characters not just because of flashy visuals, but because there's a gut-level sense that these myths reflect something real about human potential. Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces discussed universal archetypes that keep reappearing in myths and pop culture, reflecting a shared longing for transcendence. Superhero fandom events like Comic-Con show how deeply people connect with the notion of hidden power, forming quasi-spiritual communities around these modern myths. Academic courses on comics often highlight that superhero stories fulfill cultural needs once satisfied by gods and demigods. Ancient divine birth myths, like Hercules and Perseus, mirror modern origin stories like Superman, an alien but effectively a demigod on Earth, bridging ancient religious narratives and contemporary fiction. Real-world superhumans, like record-breaking freedivers or memory champions, exhibit feats that almost seem superpowered, reinforcing our fascination with human potential. The transition from ancient demigods like Hercules and Gilgamesh to modern figures like Superman or Black Panther shows how the kernel of truth remains the same while the storytelling evolves. Instead of speaking of blessings from Zeus, we talk about radioactive spider bites or gamma radiation. The language is modern, but the underlying premise is identical. Some individuals are different in ways that allow them to shape the impossible into reality. In the Greek epic cycle, characters like Achilles were semi-immortal due to divine interactions, not unlike Captain America's super soldier serum story. Hollywood rewrites of mythic tales treat ancient heroes almost like modern action figures, showing how archetypes persist across media. The cultural explosion around Black Panther reflected not just superhero excitement, but also an ancestral theme of special heritage or lineage conferring hidden powers like Wakanda's heart-shaped herb. In a cultural sense, these superheroes serve as stand-ins for the miracle workers of old, reminding us that superhuman feats, once solely in religious or mythic texts, feel plausible because some part of us acknowledges the possibility. Comic historian Will Eisner charted how early superhero stories borrowed heavily from biblical motifs, exemplifying how religious narratives informed 20th century pop culture. The idea of blessed or cursed powers appears in both mythic epics and contemporary narratives, like the Hulk's gamma-induced rage, reinforcing the timeless moral dimension of power. Marketing campaigns for superhero films rely on audiences believing that the extraordinary is possible, at least within a fictional rule set, mirroring ancient believers' trust in actual miracles. Many world religions teach that humans can become like gods, or at least approach some divine state. This is more than just poetic language. By following paths laid out by great spiritual teachers, Jesus, Buddha, Moses, Muhammad, and countless saints or ascetics, you engage in specific mental and physical disciplines that strengthen your capacity to focus. Think of it as superhero training, but couched in prayer, meditation, or ritual. The concept of theosis in Eastern Orthodox Christianity literally means becoming deified or godlike, aligning with the notion of unlocking higher abilities. In Tibetan Buddhism, advanced practitioners like the flying lama, Milarepa, were reported to levitate, linking intense meditation practice to extraordinary feats. Within Islam, stories of Sufi mystics like Jalal ad-Din Rumi describe ecstatic whirling that leads to union with the divine, sometimes accompanied by miraculous testimonies. Within Christianity, saints are said to heal the incurable. Saint Padre Pio in the 20th century was said to have the gift of bilocation, hearing confessions in two distant places simultaneously, an ability that resonated with countless believers. Today, superhero culture gives us another lens to appreciate the same phenomenon, that individuals can, through practice and faith, tap into a power that lies dormant in all of us. Modern spiritual retreats like Vipassana emphasize disciplined silence, extended meditation, and introspection, echoing the training arcs of superhero origin stories. Accounts of gurus in India, such as Neem Karoli Baba performing healings or telepathy, parallel the miracle traditions in other faiths, suggesting a common universal thread. From the Egyptian pyramids to the Gothic cathedrals of Europe, humans have built structures that seem to channel collective focus. Ancient temples often used precise geometry, special stone materials, and carefully designed acoustics. These elements weren't randomly chosen. They aimed to cultivate a mindset of reverence and minimize distractions, allowing participants to unite mentally. The Great Pyramid of Giza's precise alignment with cardinal directions suggests a sophisticated, intentional design, possibly linked to amplifying communal spiritual focus. Relics, bones of saints, fragments of clothing, statues, further anchored that focus. Medieval pilgrimage routes, like the Camino de Santiago in Spain, often ended at cathedrals housing relics believed to channel the saint's miraculous energy. If each relic carried a unique signature of a miracle worker's coherent state, it could help worshippers align their thoughts and prayers with that original power. Experts in architectural acoustics have found that chanting in certain church designs can create resonance that elevates the emotional state of the congregation. The Chartres Cathedral labyrinth in France may represent a symbolic pilgrimage, guiding walkers into a meditative, prayerful mindset conducive to spiritual coherence. In Asia, relic worship persists in forms like the Temple of the Tooth in Sri Lanka, believed to hold a tooth of the Buddha, attracting pilgrims who report unusual blessings. Modern scientific instruments like electromagnetic frequency detectors sometimes record faint anomalies in ancient ritual spaces, though mainstream science remains skeptical of attributing them to miracles. Numerous documented cases push the boundaries of conventional science. At Lourdes in France, hundreds of medically documented healings have defied explanation, often occurring after collective prayers. The Bureau des Constatations Médicales in Lourdes reviews claimed miracles under strict medical scrutiny. A portion of cases remain medically inexplicable. At Fatima in Portugal, tens of thousands of onlookers claimed to watch the sun dance in the sky. In Fatima's Miracle of the Sun in 1917, newspaper reports and eyewitness testimonies documented the unusual solar movement, impacting both believers and curious skeptics alike. Tibetan monks have long been reputed to levitate or appear in two places at once. Levitation stories are prevalent in the lives of saints like Joseph of Cupertino in the 17th century, with multiple witnesses reporting him hovering or floating during prayer. While skeptics point to illusions or misunderstandings, from this new standpoint, these anomalies could be glimpses of powerful reality bending at work. Some monks in Tibetan Buddhism practice tumo or inner fire meditation, generating body heat in freezing conditions, an observable phenomenon that challenges typical physiological limits. Padre Pio's stigmata and bilocation events were examined by medical professionals and church authorities, splitting opinion between devout acceptance and scientific disbelief. Modern documentary films occasionally capture unusual events in remote monasteries, though critics argue selective editing or cultural biases can skew the narrative. A more subtle symptom of this phenomenon appears in shared memory glitches, popularly called the Mandela effect. People recall events differently, such as the spelling of Berenstain Bears, or even whether certain historical figures died long ago or more recently. Fiona Broome coined the term Mandela effect after many people believed Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s, reflecting collective misremembering. Could large groups focusing on an alternate version of a story unwittingly cause pockets of contradictory reality? Psychologists often cite confabulation as an explanation, but the phenomenon's scale still puzzles researchers who note that entire groups share the same false memory. Though it sounds like the stuff of science fiction, it's another potential angle on how group consciousness can reshape shared experience. The Berenstain versus Berenstein debate continues to stir online forums, with some going to great lengths to prove older prints spelled the name differently. Quantum theory suggests multiple possible outcomes until an observation cements reality. Mass focus on a different recollection might subtly shift or re-encode collective memory. Experiments on memory recall show that strong social consensus can override individual recollection, hinting at how group mindsets might shape perceived history. Conspiracy theorists tie the Mandela effect to parallel universes colliding, but from this worldview, it might be the group's probability manipulation rewriting the past. Scientists like Dr. Stuart Hameroff and mathematician Roger Penrose have spent years exploring the idea that human consciousness might leverage deeper physical processes in the brain. Across the globe, biotech firms and research institutions experiment with everything from neural implants to specialized diets that might optimize how our brains function. The U.S. Army has funded programs researching synthetic telepathy devices, exploring how brainwaves might be harnessed for real-time communication. At MIT's Media Lab, researchers explore brain-computer interfaces that could one day amplify or direct thought-based manipulation of external devices. Studies on placebo effects, like those at Harvard's program in placebo studies, show how belief alone can trigger physiological changes, touching on the mind over matter principle. Some philanthropic organizations investigate large-scale meditations, such as the Global Peace Initiative, to see if collective focus reduces violent crime or social unrest. As technology inches closer to validating the link between mind and matter, we may soon see a day when certain miraculous abilities gain mainstream acceptance, like advanced healing, group-led weather modification, or the harnessing of mass intention in times of crisis. Transhumanist movements discuss upgrading human abilities, potentially merging technology with biology to streamline microtubule coherence or other cognitive functions. NASA's interest in deep space travel includes research on how prolonged isolation and altered gravity affect the brain, possibly offering new insights into microtubule stability. With each new power comes the potential for abuse. Imagine a future where corporations or political leaders learn to cultivate entire populations' focus, effectively weaponizing belief. Propaganda campaigns throughout history, such as during World War II, show how collective sentiment can be swayed by media, hinting at a rudimentary form of mass focus manipulation. That's not far-fetched if you consider the billions of minds connected by social media, all feeding attention to a single source. Social media algorithms already optimize for engagement, potentially unknowingly channeling large-scale attention towards specific topics or ideologies. On the bright side, if enough of us master these methods ethically, we might usher in an era of global harmony, using focused intention to uplift communities, heal afflictions, or even nudge the climate toward balance. But the same mastery could trigger divine wars if opposing factions pit their collective will against one another. Tech visionaries like Elon Musk caution about AI's potential to shape or control human beliefs, intersecting with the threat of quantum consciousness hacking. Historical sectarian conflicts, the Crusades, jihads, may be viewed as early examples of divine wars, fought at the intersection of faith and power. Widespread group meditations like the World Peace Meditation Day occasionally report anecdotal dips in aggression or crime, hinting at peaceful mass coherence. Ethical frameworks, such as the Baha'i emphasis on unity or Pope Francis's calls for global solidarity, could guide us toward a responsible adoption of advanced collective abilities. In the end, the core message is surprisingly hopeful. All these religious texts, myths, and modern superhero stories could be hinting at a profound truth about who we are and what we can do. Mystical Christian writings like The Cloud of Unknowing suggest that by relinquishing doubt, believers can experience union with God, a step toward heightened capacity. We don't have to dismiss our belief systems as outdated superstition. Instead, we can see them as pathways to unlocking real, life-changing powers that have always been part of our spiritual and biological heritage. The Bhagavad Gita discusses how unwavering devotion, bhakti, or intense focus, dhyana, can move mountains, an allegory for real probability manipulation. In secular mindfulness circles, the concept of beginner's mind teaches openness and curiosity, mirroring the trust and receptivity needed for miracles to bloom. Faith, practice, and an open heart might just bridge the gap between the ordinary human experience and the realm of gods. Indigenous tribes often view the divine as ever-present in nature, fostering a worldview where magical interactions, like calling animals or finding water, go hand in hand with daily life. Spiritual teachers like Paramahansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of a Yogi, detail miraculous healings and levitations witnessed in modern times, reinforcing continuity with ancient feats. Interfaith gatherings highlight common themes across doctrines: love, inner stillness, compassion, foundational attitudes that might breathe life into our dormant godlike potential. When we strip away the layers of skepticism, time-worn legends, and modern special effects, the underlying story remains. Humans have the potential to become gods, to work miracles, and to transform reality in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. Embracing this possibility doesn't mean abandoning reason or science. Rather, it invites us to expand our understanding of both. By uniting ancient wisdom with cutting-edge research, we may unlock abilities that have been waiting within us all along, heralding a new chapter in the human story.